Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. When I was being disconnected every time, so I had submitted that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says that I created the universe and I'm maintaining it in balance according to my sunnah, my laws. So physical laws are extended into social sciences. In the realm of human beings, since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given human beings options, choice, therefore there are different behaviors. And because of different behaviors, there are different consequences. And these consequences may be good or bad. Therefore, there is a concept of responsibility along with morality. Now, responsibility requires accountability. So, this is accountability which is being discussed in the Malik Yawmiddin. Last time, we had reached this point of philosophy of Quran, that why there is Yawmuddin. Now, when we are discussing Yawmuddin, and we have resolved that there is morality and there is responsibility, therefore there should be accountability, and then accountability brings us to the concept of justice. This is English translation. Otherwise, Quran uses the word adl for equity, and there are other words like mizan, like kist. They have different connotations, but we had last time slightly mentioned adl. Now, in the realm of adl, we had discussed that why this is required. Adl is required to maintain a balance, because we started our discussion from the point that Allah has created everything in balance. So, in order to restore the balance, then we need some system to restore this balance, and that is the system of adl, not just the concept of adl, but the system of adl. Now, for application of adl, it requires criterion, furqan, which Quran has given, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. So once the furqan has been given, to restore the balance, to restore the adl, to do adl, it requires a total, a complete social system. Now, that social system is translated, that social conduct is translated into a code of conduct, for which man was asked to make a contract with God, Misan, and the man has has concluded a contract with God. When we say Amantu Billah, we are agreeing that yes, I'm taking this, I'm concluding this, that now I'm agreeable to this code of conduct. I accept it. I sign this. I agree to this. Amantu billahi wa malaikati wa kutubi. So then the question of acceptance comes here, and the contract which we conclude with God. Now, in order to implement this system, it requires certain social structures in the society. And we are leaving other structures. We are talking about the concept of an organized polity. You may call it a state, you may call it country, you may define it in different ways, but society or state, it is an organized polity. Misake Medina gives us an example that it was established as an organized polity where there is administration. So this organized polity is based on adl. It has to be based on qist, and it has to implement, enforce that system of justice. Therefore, justice demands that all structures and institutions of a state, including legislature, executive, and judiciary, have to be just. If any of the pillars of the state, for example, the legislature, the executive, or the judiciary itself, these three constitute the structure. They provide the pillars to the state. If any one of them fails, the state fails. And if the state fails, Quran tells us, and Hazrat Ali has also said, that the state may otherwise, maybe otherwise, it can survive, but it cannot survive if there is no justice. Justice is so important to maintain the balance and to maintain the state itself, to maintain the society itself. That is why Adil is so important. Socrates said at that time when they were discussing, there were discussions on the city state and the Greek state. Justice is to be discovered in the state. When you are looking for justice, whether there is justice or not, you cannot explain justice on the basis of an individual that he is very just, therefore the society is just, or such and such thing is just. But you have to look for the structures of the state, whether they are working on justice or not. If the structures of the state are not working on justice, and that is, in simple words, if the state is not working on justice, then the entire edifice, entire concept, entire iman on which we said Amantu Billah, that fails. That is why we are failing everywhere in the world. Muslims are failing because there is no justice in our state structure, in our societal structure, in our family structure. Those structures, in any institutional structure, which are in fact the structures of the state. Family is the structure of the society. Society is the structure of the state. Without population, without society, without norms of the society, there can be state. There has to be a code, and if there is a code, there has to be a contract with the state, and that we call misak with God, if it is a God-given system. State or dominion represents extent and nature of sovereignty. Now, when we say state, then there's a question of sovereignty. And when we are discussing sovereignty, to what extent the state is sovereign to implement that code? And when we are talking of society, to what extent the society is able to implement the code of conduct? Today, we find that people usually claim that somebody is drinking, okay, it's my personal matter. But you're drinking openly in the society. This is my choice. If somebody walks without clothes, he says, my choice, my body, my choice. It means the society is failing to implement the code. The state has failed to implement the code of conduct, the norm. Without norm, without taboos, there cannot be concept of any culture in any society. And if this is the situation in any society, then it will go on increasing, and there will be ultimately the failure of the state. We are already seeing that these things are challenging now the state. Look at the LGBTQ, their concepts, challenging the culture, challenging the society, challenging the state law. In 1960, you have seen in the encounter, police was called, army was called, and then ultimately they had to surrender. State or dominion represent extent and nature of sovereignty. So these things are not dealing whenever we say Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, Malik yawmiddin. We don't understand the concept, total concept of Quran, which has been squeezed, which has been filtered into Surat Al-Fatiha. Therefore, nature of justice exhibits ultimate truth of the sovereignty. In 1960, the government surrendered. They surrendered to the charter which was issued by the 200 delegates or leaders. They accepted the charter LGBTQ. Ultimately, I'm talking about the ultimate consequence, the result. The nature of justice exhibits ultimate truth of sovereignty, how much the state is sovereign to implement its norms, its code, its conduct, its discipline, its laws. Justice is not the judgment, as we think. And even some people so good to go so far to hold a fatwa as a justice. Fatwa is not a justice. Judgment is not a justice. Justice is not the judgment only. After delivery of judgment, if it is a good judgment, but any judgment, after the judgment is delivered, the delivery of justice still remains there. The question of delivery of justice remains there. Your courts may be honest. Judge may be honest. If not the entire system, of course, but maybe let us take some example of one judgment. One judgment is honest, and it's a good judgment based on justice. But there is a problem in the delivery of justice systems in our country, in our world, in the world. Delivery of justice. International Court of Justice has given a judgment, has given an order. Now, delivery of justice, unless the justice is delivered, there's no justice. So it's not only a question of judgment. We say that why we are in this situation, we are in this situation because we don't have systems. We don't understand the whole concept that why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used the word Malik and Yawm al-Din. The entire phase of Deen, starting from first command, everyone will be judged on the timeline of history. And he is a Malik, which means he is the Malik of Adl, the laws he gave, the code he gave, the judgment that he will give, and then he is Malik to deliver the justice. He will ask the victim, why you were killed? If she doesn't speak, if somebody doesn't come forward. So delivery of justice, that is why it has been made open, that the day of judgment is open. Everybody will be there. They will see their hisab themselves. They will see the judgment, hear the judgment, listen to the judgment, see the judgment themselves, how it is being delivered. Then how the judgment is, not only the judgment is being delivered, but the justice is being delivered. That is why Simonides, he is one of the great modern legal scientists. He says justice is to render what is due. This is the translation of word adl, in fact. And he is one of the most modern philosophers on justice, on law, on legal systems. But in the modern terminology, he says justice is to render what is due. It is here that justice shows. There is even there is a maxim in the law which is accepted in the entire world, in all the legal systems, that justice must show. Justice has been, the judgment has been delivered by ICC, but the justice is not delivered. And wherever, even partially, even a 0.1%, for example, something has been ordered as justice to deliver aid, deliver food, but justice is not showing because it is not being done. Only the judgment has been given. The delivery is failing. Justice is not showing. It is the maxim of the justice that the justice must show itself, that justice is being done. It is here that the justice shows. It is not enough. It is not enough, I repeat, it is not enough that the judgment is delivered, that the ICC has delivered the judgment, or even justice is done, even if it is done, but if it does not show, if the justice does not show, then it will not create deterrence for the future. It does not show, it will not satisfy the victim if the justice does not show. It will not set an example that can be quoted in the courts tomorrow. that in this case, ICC has delivered this judgment. Now, this is the precedent. Istishab, as we call it in Islamic jurisprudence, that you quoted tomorrow that in this case this was done, but this has not been implemented. This is not showing. It has to show itself that it has been done. And it should show. In this showing, there's one more important subtle element. It should show to the victim. The victim should see that the justice is done. Read the case of Mai Jindu, how she fought it. She wanted to see the justice with her own eyes, with her own eyes. It has therefore been made abundantly transparent and visible in the proceeding and seen of the day of judgment portrayed in the Quran at many places. How the Pharaohs, how the Hitlers, how the Netanyahus, how the people, they will be taken to account and how they will be driven. Then comes the important question of enforcement. Now the judgment is given, the judgment is delivered, judgment is showing itself, the process of it started, but how? There is a system of enforcement. Then comes the important question of enforcement. It has therefore been made absolutely clear in the terminology of Surah Al-Fatiha and in the detailed directions and clarifications given in the Quran that all sovereignty, authority, power of enforcement, Malik Yawmiddin, for enforcement, is Malik Yawmiddin of the entire process of Yawmiddin, which includes the process of enforcement. You see the Bible, you see Torah, you see Zabur, you see Injil, you see Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned it as the Malik of, not only for the judgment, and we say we have translated as he is the judge of the day. He is the Malik of the day. Of all the processes, enforcement are inviolably available with the owner, Lord, Master, Rabb of the day. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. The surah starts with Rabbil Alameen. And the Rabbil Alameen, all the alam, all the planes of existence, all the seven heavens, is the Malik Yawmiddin. The intense multi-layered mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Multi-layered mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, encompassing all procedures and proceedings, ensures justice for the oppressed and the oppressor all. That is why Rahman has been used. He is the adjudicator for the oppressor and the victim both. Ensures justice for the oppressed and the oppressor, victim and the oppressor, Mazloom and Zalim both. Islam dictates that help the Zalim also. Help the Mazloom both. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do justice for both. All these and all other relevant oceans of aspects have been beautifully encapsulated in Ayat 4 of Surah Al-Fatiha. It's a question of concept, if we understand the concept. Essence of the Quran and the essence of Al-Fatiha. There are so many commentaries on this, thousands of commentaries, not one. Imam Shafi in Mariful Quran, it is a very voluminous translation and tafsir. So many parts, so many volumes are included in this. Surah Fatiha, although he says it has been explained in as a gist of Quran, and he has explained the first sentence. I'm not going into details, but because during uh, previous discussions I mentioned, I will not repeat this. So what has been mentioned in first, second sentence, and first sentence, second sentence, and he goes on to explain and explain each sentence, and he goes on to explain the importance of the what dua, and then the admission that the man is not self-sufficient and are independent. That is why he is emphasizing Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in. I am not self-sufficient. Iyaka nasta'in. He's admitting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminded, do you know from what you have been made? All these things, the philosophy of Quran is placed in this Iyaka nasta'in. Help me. I'm not all sufficient. I'm not I'm independent of everything. Worship and obedience are his inner urges. It is the psychological inner urge of human being to worship God. When there was in the past, when there was no revelation, people still worship something as God, someone as God. They considered, they changed, they thought, they pondered like Ibrahim alayhi salam, who is my Lord? All the philosophers in the world, in every corner of the world, because it is in the human psyche. Human being is always in need of Allah's help in all matters. Not only Quran has explained it, but the philosophy, the psychology, sociology, they have explained it that, for example, even those people who negated religion became atheists, but they developed their concepts ultimately, concepts of atheism, that they became a religion for themselves. He always needs guidance to find and to remain on the right path. Every creation, khalaqa, fasawa, fahada, adalaka, all these things have been explained. Everything has been given hada huda, hidayat, as a software. Now that software is to search on this, his location, his resources, his how to deal with those resources, other human beings, fellow beings, other animals, animal world, and environment, how to deal with those. It is the basic software, Fahada, which has been provided. Now he is in search. He is in search of utilizing the resources, utilizing these interrelationships, utilizing the relationships and connections. And for that, he needs guidance. Because there are options, there are different behaviors. He's looking at others and he's finding their different behaviors, different consequences. Which one is the best? Out of all these, which one is the straight path? What is the Surat Al-Mustaqim? He's looking for that. It is in his psyche. And Quran is readily has been made available. That this is the Surat Al-Mustaqim. And Surah Fatiha has been arranged in such a way that for such a seeker, such a seeker who is seeking Surat Al-Mustaqim, Ehdina Surat Al-Mustaqim, the scholars have analyzed, they say that the second part of Surah Fatiha is the answer to the seeker who is seeking. And he needs this hidayat always, every time. Not one time. It is not shown from a distance that you go on in this direction and then you are left in search on your own. At every point, there are options. At every point, there are turning points. There are crossings. There are crossroads. One has to take a decision. One has to make a judgment. And here he needs guidance. He seeks guidance for worship, not only worship, deen, not only deen, mazhab, ways of worship, obedience to Allah, ittiba, tabedari, success on the way, acceptance of offerings, all these given in the conclusion of Surah Fatiha. Idina Sirat al-Mustaqim, Sirat al-Ladin, An'amta alayhim, those whom you have given the rewards. Give me that guidance, that path, and accept them. Acceptance of my offering, my endeavors. For what? My relationship with God. Ya ayyatan nafsul mutmainna, irji ila rabbik, radiyatan mar. You come to me pleasing. I'm pleased with you. Pleasure, pleasure of God. Pleasure of God is mutual, it's not one way. God wants to make you happy. God wants to make you pleased. Come to me, please. Umar said, I'm going to my Lord, please. I'm happy in this life. I'm happy with whatever he gave me. There was a person, there is a story. He went to offer a scholar. He went to offer salat in the masjid. It was very hot. He had no shoes, no chappal, no slippers. It was very hot. And in his mind, he was complaining, sort of complaining, that I can't afford a pair of shoes and I can't bear this heat. But anyway, when he was offering, he saw a person in sajda, in prostration, and he was pleasing his Lord. He was thanking his Lord. He was doing shukr. Oh Allah, you have been very kind to me. Oh Allah, I'm very thankful to you. You have given me so many things. You have given me two eyes. You have given me tongue. You have given me taste. You have given me food. You have given me shelter. You have given me health. Everything. I am thankful to you. So he said, the scholar said, I waited till he finishes his dua in sajda. And when he got up, he could not stand up. He was just, he had no feet. He had no feet. Both feet were missing. He had no feet. In accident, he has lost some time back. The man asked them, the scholar asked them, you were praying God, you were thanking him for so many things. You can't walk. He said, but still, it's not just one point. He has given us so many billions and billions of nemat and kalmas and favors that we forget when we miss one. Why should I miss these billions of things? Why should I miss everything because of my feet? And then that scholar writes that he fell into prostration himself. Oh God, forgive me. You have given me everything. I have no fear, no shoes. And I became ungrateful to you. But this man has no feet, but he is grateful to you. Forgive me. I am pleased with you. Be pleased with me. So prayer is mutual. It's not just only we say to God, oh God, be pleased with me. Say that you are pleased with everything which God has given. You ask for better things. You ask for hasana. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasana. Ask for hasana. Ask for favor. Ask for benefits with tama. Even with greed, you ask your God. But don't become displeased. Be pleased and please God. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.